This is the Blue Seahorse Show, and my name is Mike Siver. And tonight we're going to talk about, understanding your parents or recognizing what your parents do. And it's titled, Washing Your Father's Hands. This was from a story that was sent to me by one of my friends on the internet. And it says, a young man went to seek an important position at a large printing company. He had passed the initial interview and was going to meet the director for the final interview. The director saw his resume, and it was excellent. And he asked the young man, "Have you received a scholarship for your school?" The boy replied, "No." "Was it your father who paid for your studies?" He said, "Yes." "Where does your father work?" "My father is a blacksmith," the boy replied. The director asked the young man to show him the young man's hands. The young man showed a pair of hands that were soft and perfect. "Have you ever helped your parents at their job?" "Never. My parents always wanted me to study and read more books. Besides, my father can do a better job than I." The director asked, "I have a request before we go any further. When you go home today, go and wash the hands of your father, and then come and see me tomorrow morning." The young man felt that he had a good chance for the job and that his success rate would be high. When he returned home to his house, he asked his father if tonight he would allow him to wash his hands. The father said he felt strange about doing this, but he was happy to have somebody else wash his hands. But with mixed feelings, he showed his hands to his son. The young man washed his father's hands little by little. It was the first time that he'd noticed that his father's hands were wrinkled and they had many scars. Some of the bruises were so painful that the skin shredded when he touched them. This was the first time that the young man recognized what it meant for his pair of hands to work every day to be able to pay for his studies. The bruises on the hands were the price that he paid for his son's education, his school activities, and for his future. After cleaning his father's hands, the young man stood in silence and began to tidy and clean up the workshop. That night, the father and son had their first very long talk. The next morning, the young man went to the office of the director. The director noticed the tears in his eyes of the young man when he asked him, "Can you tell me what you did and what you learned yesterday at your house?" The boy replied, "I washed my father's hands, and when I finished, I stayed and cleaned the workshop. Now I know what it is to appreciate and recognize that without my parents, I would not be who I am today. By helping my father, I now realize how difficult and how hard it would be for me to do something on my own. I have come to appreciate the importance and the value in helping the family." The director said, "This is what I look at in people. I want to hire someone who can appreciate the help of others and value their input. A person who knows the hardship of others and how they have to do things. And a person who does not put money as the only goal in his life." And now you have the job. I wonder how many of us, and myself included, really don't appreciate until we get much older in life about the value that the impact had of our family in raising us. Now, we all come from different backgrounds and different outlooks, and some are single-parent families, some have a mom only, and some have a dad only. But that doesn't mean that they don't work hard for your success all through the years, the early years, the teenage years, and support you as much as they're physically able to become something that most parents hope are better than me. I wanted my children to be better than what I was doing. I know my mom wanted me to be better than her, and her mom wanted her to be better than her. But better in what ways? Just earning more money? Is that what we call better? Or to become a more knowledgeable person as well, a more compassionate, more understanding, man or person, a woman of integrity, of ethics and morals. Sometimes our parents, sometimes they lack in some of those skills. But we have adult leadership around in the communities that we're in the neighborhoods we're in our aunts and uncles and grandfathers and grandparents and adults in our lives. How are we taught at such a young age to look at those older people, those elderly people and adults in our lives, and recognize that there's something there that I need to learn? There's something there that I can learn something from. And if I can take that little bit and expand on that, because I'm going to have a family one day, I'm going to have children one day, and I want them to be better than me, but I think the days, they're not gone, about money is show some kind of success. Well, it does represent success in some way. Sometimes saving money is a better success than earning it. I mean, we can all earn money. It may not be as much as we'd like to earn at times, but saving money, becoming frugal, preparing for your future, saving a little bit each month to put away for the future or for emergencies. I know there's a lot of people who live paycheck to paycheck. And sometimes, we talk about, oh, you should save money, save money. Well, at the end of the day, there is no money. There's no money left, and what they're eating out of the cupboards has to last until the next check comes in, or until you get paid the next day. I know sometimes it's very, very difficult, but I think it's also an attitude that goes along with being positive about your environment and your situation, or negative about your environment and your situation. And then when we start to grow up, the people that have taught us or tried to teach us and give us some direction and some guidance, if we only listened, of course, they become senior citizens and they become older. And sometimes we tend to disregard those people. I'm going to read a little chapter out of my book, one of my books. It talks about senior citizens and recognizing that they have a role to play in our life as well. This story is called The Little Boy and the Old Man. And I may have done this already on the show once before, but it doesn't hurt to go over this stuff sometimes. Said the little boy, "Sometimes I drop my spoon." Said the little old man, "I do that too." The little boy whispered, "I wet my pants." "I do that too," laughed the little old man. Said the little boy, "I often cry." The old man nodded, "So do I." "But worst of all," said the boy, "it seems grown-ups don't pay attention to me." And he felt the warmth of the wrinkled old hand. "I know what you mean," said the little old man. Well, that's from a story called The Light in the Attic. And it shows that very young people and senior citizens are often treated the same. You can be seen and not heard. You've done your time. We're moving on now. We're past what you have to say or offer. You know what? Because I'm in that era now, I have a real problem with this. Because I know, I've learned, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. Done a lot of things I'm not very proud of. And I've done a lot of things I'm very proud of. But I have a lot to give, a lot to offer. And sure, at my age, it's usually advice, some wisdom that I've gained over the years. You can't get to become a senior citizen without gaining some sort of wisdom about what works and what doesn't work. We get up to the senior years and we start to realize and accept the fact that we have fallacies, that we have to recognize our shortcomings and our pitfalls. And I'll go on here a little bit. It says, when we give all the attention needed to support the young people growing up. If our young children drop their spoon or anything else, we pick it up for them or allow them time to do it so they feel good about themselves. If a young child wets their pants, we know that nobody does that on purpose. So without wanting to embarrass them or let them help, we help them change their clothes and we don't make a big deal about it. Well, the same with seniors. That some seniors, they get sort of shuttled away into a nursing home, or they get hospice, maybe, that they stay at home. And they have issues about incontinence and a few other side things that we have to work with. But we don't embarrass them about it. And I've been around where they have been embarrassed. Why couldn't you hold it for 5 more minutes? Why couldn't you do this? Why couldn't you do that? Well, I'm sure if they could, they would. But do we give them the benefit of the doubt? No. If our children start to cry, we ask why. And we work very hard to understand. We also reassure our children it is okay to cry, and those who love them will hold their hand until they feel better. What about adults that find themselves unable to do the things they used to do, and they feel their independence slipping away? They feel their control of their life slipping away. That must be very painful. I know my wife has got some diseases that have left her unable to do the same things that she used to do. And sometimes she gets very depressed over that. And my job is to support her and encourage her that these things are part of what she's going through, and we'll make the best of it and move on. But I can't take away her feelings. And that's with any senior or any adult with some kind of disability. We can't disregard them and throw them away because now they're not as beneficial or as profitable as they could be to us in the other aspect. Why is it, after giving all the support and attention we need as children, we treat these same people who gave us that support with such abandon? Why is it that after being made to feel good when we were down, being picked up after we dropped things, being helped to feel good after we might be embarrassed ourselves, we treat those who gave us their time with abandon when they get older? How do we really treat our parents and our grandparents when they seem to require more and more attention? Let's remember to treat those who took care of us when we were children with respect and dignity like they did us. Now, that's just one part of the stuff that we talk about in trying to get the family as a unit to grow as a unit and not lose people along the way, because now they can't be as helpful to us. They can't drive us to the store. Come on, Mom, take me to the movie or drop me off here. They can't do that anymore. And besides that, you can do it yourself. So because you can do it yourself, you don't need them, but they also don't feel needed. So when people stop to feel needed and stop to be made feeling like they can be helpful, they feel like they're being abandoned. And this goes on to say, this first story, a child that has been coddled, protected, and usually giving what he wants develops the mentality of, I have the right. You know, we talk about the entitled children of today. I don't know if I was entitled when I was younger. I thought I should have had a lot more stuff than I did. But I know because we were on state aid growing up, we didn't have a lot. And everything I wanted I had to work for. Now I'm not complaining about that because it gave me some work ethics. You don't get something for nothing. And if you do, you really, really rejoice. And always put themselves first, ignoring the efforts of their parents. If we are this type of protective parent, are we really showing love, or are we destroying our children? Now, I don't know about the word destroying in there. I don't know if we're destroying our children, but it's going to follow on to the next segment, the next show that talks about we teach people how to treat us. And if we're teaching our children that they're entitled and that we will work an overtime shift to get them what they want rather than have them save for it, what are we teaching them? That all they have to do is ask for it and they'll get it. It's like these notices you get in the mail about you've been approved for pre-approved for a credit card for $2,000 or whatever the amount is. And then if you take the time and you learn when you're older to read the fine print, the interest rate is like 19% for the first 6 months, then jumps to 28%. Well, who in the world would do that? Why would you do that? The only way you learn to do that and not get excited about getting free money, which you think is free money, because you've already been pre-approved, is when you get older and you learn to slow down a bit. Start reading the fine print, reading what's going on. Young people who are entitled just take that as another entitlement. You can give your child a big house, good food, computer classes, watch TV on a big screen, but when you're washing the floor or painting a wall, please let them experience it as well. So part of what we teach when we do some family counseling is all children should not have anything ever taken away from them. Now sometimes that sounds a little bit silly to say, you know, I can't punish my child, I can't take anything away from them. What you do is you change your mindset, your attitude about how you deal with consequences. We talked sometime on the show a while back about doing away with the word punishment and replace it with consequences. There's consequences for your action. Parents, the consequences for their action going to the work every day is at the end of the month they get a paycheck. That's a positive consequence. If you don't turn up to work on time and you get fired, that's a negative consequence. So life is full of consequences and not so much punishment and reward. And we have to change the mindset on how we look at that. After eating, have them wash the dishes with their brothers and sisters. It is not because you have no money to hire someone to do this. It's because then you want them to love and learn the right way. No matter how rich you are, you want them to understand. One day your hair will be gray, like the father of this young man. We also teach children in some of the classes that we run that children never are given, they earn or they lose. If they want something, they have to earn it. And it might be a token job, but at least they go and pick up the living room and put all the stuff away and they can have a bowl of ice cream. If they're taught that from an early age, they learn to earn everything they want. Nothing's given to them. Now, that doesn't say you can't have surprise nights if there's a week where the kids do all their chores, do everything correctly, do their homework, no arguments, not too many arguments, pushing and shoving, because kids will do that. Surprise them with a surprise consequence. You guys have been great for this week. You've done a wonderful job. We're going out to McDonald's, or we're going to go out to a movie. We're going to go do something that you want to do. Not what mom and dad want to do, but what you want to do. They've earned the right. They've been good, they earn. They lose, they earn. If we can learn to change that dynamics in our conversation with children, I think the children's life will be much easier as they get older. And that I don't see that happening yet. I know some parents try to, and I know the ones that we work with try to. But it's a whole mindset, because I wasn't taught that way when I was a kid. I got punished. And when I did something wrong, there wasn't consequences, there was punishment. And dad spanked, or mom spanked, or the spoon came out, or whatever. And I was taught that, and I know my mom was taught that, and her mom was taught that. It was punishment and reward, but the reward was few and far between. Now I believe we have to change the mindset as a community, and as a nation, if we're going to go to that extent, of children at an earliest age as possible need to understand they earn or they lose. Now that can be abused as well, and there has to be some education there with the parents as well to know where to draw the line, because you lost, it might as well become punishment then. And it's not that we don't have consequences for our children. We don't want to abuse our children. We want them to grow up to be respectful adults, and hopefully that they'll consider us as seniors when we grow up, and they'll appreciate that how hard we worked, and the whole focus of our work was so that they could have a better life. Now I know when I was raising my children, I worked away from home a lot. But all the money went home so that my wife could comfortably raise them and take care of them, so that they could get the education and have the living that they would learn to appreciate what they got. And that went fairly well. Now, the most important thing is that your child needs to learn to appreciate the effort and to experience the difficulties and learn the ability to work with others to get things done. And this all stems from the family. It all comes from the family. If we look at our family and how we feel about each other, how we address each other, how we talk about our family to other people, is a big reflection of the attitude that's in the family. And that has to change too, because a lot of times the internal workings of the house, they're private. What goes on inside my house is private, unless I'm breaking the law or doing something that's going to endanger someone's life. So what we do inside our home is private. But if that's negative, then that reflects us when we walk out of the house. Are we dressed appropriately? Are we dressed? How do we deal with the public? Because if we disrespect our parents growing up and don't appreciate the value that they have, that they can give us, then we're going to not appreciate or respect authority on the street. Starts with teachers. And I have sisters that are teachers. I have friends that are teachers. And it's difficult for them. They're in a no-win situation. They're not allowed like when I was in school, I had the ruler across my knuckles I don't know how many times for doing all kinds of things I shouldn't have been doing. But when the kids today do half the stuff that I used to do, the parents can't do anything. The teachers can't do anything. I mean, the parents can do something, I meant. But the teachers, they can send them to the office. And if it's bad enough, they get expelled. Well, if that's the only consequence you've got, and that doesn't hurt you, in the early days it doesn't. Because the kids know to some point the state is going to get them an education one way or another. Now, they may get expelled from school, they're going to have to come back and finish it. If they're out long enough, they're going to be given homework to do at home, but they can't associate with their friends. Well, the friends are only gone in the morning when they're in school. In the afternoon when they're home, their friends are home with them. So they really haven't lost anything. Again, consequences for actions. Does it equal what the actions were? I know if you bring a weapon to school today, it's a lot more serious legally than it used to be. I don't know how many kids, most kids when I was in school, we all carried pocket knives. Can't carry them anymore in the school system. They have metal detectors now going into the school system. So what are we teaching the kids about earning and losing, consequences for actions? Luckily, majority of the kids are okay. I know I go and I address the school in my neighborhood to the Honor Society once a month, maybe twice a month. And we talk about leadership qualities it takes to become a leader, what's expected of leaders. And they're experiencing that in high school as Honor Society students. We used to call the kids that were Honor Society, we didn't have the Honor Society when I was in school, but the smart kids, they were above us. We looked down on them because we thought, now they didn't think that. We thought that they thought they were better than us. And they really didn't. But we put them in that category. And therefore we segregated our population just by our perception of what we thought they felt, which was totally incorrect. We need to look at our parents, the adults around us. What do they do for us? Do we ever ask that or think that? And we need to ask children to ask themselves that question. And when we talk about, in some of our parenting classes, having a day of one meal a week, today that's a lot, that's asking a lot. To sit down as a family at one meal, not in front of the TV, not on coffee tables or the old tables around the chairs, at a table, and talk about how your day went. What did you do today? And get kids to start to listen to the adults. That's a huge, huge turnaround. I don't know how many families do that today. We get the families that don't do that as much because they come to our classes to learn how to do that, because their parenting styles have come into question, or something's going on with the family. So we look at winding of doing that. Now we're going to carry this on in the future. So with that, I'm going to say good evening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.